Welcome. My name's Deborah Hendricks, and I will be your facilitator tonight. I do not work for Ed Jones, but my facilitator who was going to present this session got sick. So he sent me the information on Thursday and said, I can't be there, but hopefully you can present it. So I'll do my darndest to present their information. But in your packets, you'll see the handout of the presentation that we're going to use today. So today our focus is we actually have 3 topics that we're going to be looking at. So financial management or budgeting. Then we're going to do cooking matters, and we're actually going to be cooking pizzas and mini pizzas, and then also a trail mix. And then we'll also have Chick-fil-A will be coming through here in a minute to bring us some nuggets because we know that we want to make sure we have tons of food, because that's what we do in Parents Challenge. We feed you. And then we'll also be doing a session on time management, and that's the whole purpose of the journals, and talking about the importance of that as well. Again, thank you for being here. This topic, frankly, this is their budget workshop, Ed Jones, and the importance of creating and maintaining a budget, examining the differences between wants and needs, and then also setting goals for savings, for spending, and then future investments. And although, we're talking about this being for our scholars, as I was going through this, I was like, I think I need to be doing that. I need to be reminded of needs and wants and living within your means and all of that. So it was really just great information as I was preparing to facilitate the session. So our goal today is that we're going to provide resources. Come on in. Resources to help you understand the importance of savings and managing your finances. Just a little bit in terms of Ed Jones is that they really try to work within the community and do things within the community to support families and individuals. And Jacob, this is the gentleman who was going to be doing our workshop today. So wanted to certainly give them kudos for supporting our efforts anyway. But their goal is to how can they help people with long-term financial goals while understanding their needs and tailoring them to what your particular situation is, because we all have different situations. So instead of saying you have to do it this way or that way, really tailoring it so that it can meet your specific objectives that you set for yourself. So in order to do this, to help us achieve our goals, we want to understand how decisions we make today will have an impact on things that will be happening to us in the future. And our ability to establish what we want our future to look like, the reality of that, we have to start early. So those of you that have part-time jobs or babysitting jobs or lawn mowing jobs or whatever you might be doing, is what are you doing with those funds? Are you spending it as quickly as you get it? Or are you beginning to look at how do I put some of those things away, because you begin to look at this is what I want to happen in the future. That doesn't happen just because we dream about it. It only happens when we put some things in place to make it a reality. Okay? So most, they say, adulting decisions are in some part related to finances, where your money goes, how you pay off debt, how you save. So those are adulting decisions. So as you can see up here, I just put some statistics that 38% of U.S. households have credit card debt. And 56% of adults have less than $10,000 for retirement, and 33% have nothing, which means that they can never retire because they've never saved for that purpose. So we want to look at how to eliminate being in that situation and setting ourselves up for success. So part of this is all about resilience and our confidence in really looking at how do we move forward. So did COVID take a kind of a crisis, the pandemic, on all of us? And our finances, our mental health, education, just everything. I mean, as you begin to look at the fact that COVID had some major issues with things that were happening. But when COVID happened, these stats that are at the bottom, 6% of people delayed their retirement. So there were people who were planning to retire, but they didn't because of COVID. 10% put off changing careers. They felt that if I have a stable job right now, I better stay here at this point and not look to move because I don't know what's going to happen 6 months, a year from now based on what's going on. 12% postponed major life events. A lot of kids took gap years from college, and not because maybe they didn't want to go to college. They may not have had the finances to sometimes go to college because of that, simply because things changed. Some took gap years because parents were saying, I'm not going to pay for you to go to college and watch a TV screen the entire time because everything was remote. And then 12% of individuals took a lot of loans out and did a lot of borrowing from family and friends just to survive. So a lot of changes took place. And what we want to look at is aspects of COVID are going to be here, but how do we now look at changing our trajectory going forward and saying, now what's the path forward in terms of our next set of goals? So these are the things that we're going to focus on. And like I said, the packet is in your, the handout is in your packet, and you can certainly take notes along the way in terms of, because I'm going to ask you some things to think about. And as I'm asking these things of our scholars, I'm also asking parents, because part of the ability sometimes for scholars to do things different, they got to see what you're doing. Are we modeling what it is that we're recommending the scholars do? Or are we doing totally opposite and saying, do as I say and not as I do type thing? So the goal is, what are we doing to help set up success for our scholars? So meet Marta, and we're going to take a journey with Marta. She's a 30-year-old woman who works 2 jobs, one at a grocery store and another at a hostess at a restaurant. She feels overwhelmed by her debt. She has also paid bills late in the past, and one reason is that her personal finances are not very organized. Marta wants to become more financially stable. So a little more information on Marta. She makes $2,000 a month. She keeps paying her credit card bills, but she doesn't seem to ever get ahead, because as soon as she pays a little bit down on the credit card bill, what does she do? She uses it to pay to live, because she only makes $2,000 a month. But she has some short and long-term goals, which we all should have, right? And one of them is she wants to take a vacation next summer, and eventually she wants to buy her own home. So those are pretty big goals. Take a vacation and buy a home. So how's she going to do that on $2,000 a month? All right. So we're going to work through Marta's situation. So if you look at A, B, C, D, E, which of these does she need to do? Scholars, which of these does she need to do? Yeah, she needs to do all of them. Is one more important than the other?
Depending on which one
Say that again?
Depends on what she's lacking.
Okay, all right.
if she struggles goes with one more than the other. Like living within her means would be probably more important than making a budget, personally.
Okay. But if she doesn't have a budget, she may not know how to live within her means.
That's true.
Okay? So all of these are important. She needs to have a financial strategy. She needs to know exactly if you're only making $2,000 a month, how are you gonna live on that? If that's all you have at this point, and right now she's already working. How many jobs? 2 jobs she's already working. She doesn't have a budget. She probably doesn't have anything saved, or if she does, it's pretty minimal. And she's trying to live within her means, but we said earlier that she's not paying her credit cards on time, which means that she's paying something else instead of that. So when you don't pay your credit cards on time, then what happens? Okay, so you get interest, double interest in many cases, and you get a penalty, which could be anywhere from what? $25 up to $40. So that means that's an additional now $40 that comes out of your budget, and then reducing her debt. So Marta has some decisions that she needs to make, because all of these are important. So today what we're going to do is we're going to try to help Marta create a budget that she can live within, which $2,000 a month is hard to live on. But we're going to try. All right, so what is the difference between gross and net income? And you're already reading it, so what's the difference? What's the difference between gross? These are for the scholars. Parents, I hope you know. What's the difference between gross income and net income? You right?
Gross income is the total amount of money you make before taxes and other debt collectors are taken out. And then net income is what you make in total after those are factored.
Exactly. So when your job tells you that you make $12 an hour, you do. But do you get $12 an hour? No. When you get that check, you're like, they cheated me. Where's the rest of my money? Well, FICA, that's right. Who's FICA? You're right. And who told FICA that they could take some of my money? So what happens is that, yeah, you do make $12 an hour, but by the time they finish, you might bring home maybe $9 an hour. So now you've got to really set your budget based on not gross, but net. You got to set it on net income, because that's what you physically have that you take home. Now, people who own their own business, FICA might not come out of the initial money, but you got to send FICA their money. Because if you don't, they will be coming after you to collect quarterly or annually, however you set that up. But so you've got to make sure that if I do a job, come on in. If I do a job and that job cost me, or I get paid $500 from that job, then I've got to determine $500, what is the taxes that I have to pay. And you still have to pay FICA, and you still have to pay Medicare, and you still have to pay, what's that other one? Medicare and Social Security. Thank you, a big one. And then you have to pay Colorado tax, or whatever state or whatever. So that's why some people move to Florida, because they don't have state tax, or they move to Oregon or whatever, because they don't have state tax. Okay. So we've got to remember that gross income is great, but net income is what you want to make sure you're looking at. Is your mom and them coming?
No.
You coming by yourself today? Oh, you get to hang out with me today, huh? All right, we're in this packet here. Okay. All right. Okay, so based on that, I believe Marta's money is based on net. So that's the net amount that she received. So why do we need a budget? Why do you need a budget? Why do you need a budget? What's your name, sweetie?
Renee,
Renee, thank you. So I don't keep just kind of looking at you.
you
Why do we need a budget?
need a budget because you need to have organization so you know what you can spend where, and you're not overspending on groceries, so you still have enough for your gas.
Right. So does a budget keep you from overspending? What keeps you from overspending? You. So if we write it on paper and we do nothing with it, does that help us? It's like, well, the budget said, but if we don't use the budget, because what happens sometimes, we get a budget and then something happens. Oh, that cool dress that we wanted, those cool gym shoes we want. Or my friends wanted to go to the movies. And so, but that's not in your budget. But I'll pay it next month, right? Right, put the minimum on the credit card. Okay. Hi. Come right over here. Can you move all that stuff off the table? Thank you, thank you. Okay, you guys focus on me, not on what just came in the door. I know, focus on me. All right. Okay, so we've got to look at helping Marta look at what her monthly income. So budgets help us live within our means. Budgets help you pay down debt. And then budgets help you save for the future and emergency. So the key thing about budgets is that it allows me, hopefully, to begin preparation for not just today, but tomorrow. And how do I make sure that rainy day happens, right? I got a car. Car needs gas. Car needs oil change. Car needs tires. Do I have anything set aside to pay for those when they occur? And if you have nothing in savings or you have no emergency money, it makes it hard to do that. And if we do have a credit card, then we're adding that to the credit card bill. But if we're not paying that off, or if we don't have a credit card, then we're borrowing. And this is what I say about borrowing. If someone asks you to borrow money from you, two things you need to take into consideration. One, if they don't pay you back, will you be okay? Because when people borrow money from you, you have to take into consideration you may not get paid back. And if you're planning for it, you could be in trouble. So anytime you loan money, loan it with the idea that I might not get it back. And if you do get it back, then that's a bonus. But you loan it and you subtract that from wherever you took it from, knowing that it might not ever get replaced. Okay? So always remember, don't loan money if you're expecting it back. Only loan money if you are okay with never receiving it back. Because who gets frustrated from that? You do. I always tell my sister she's the worst debt collector ever, because she will hound you down for her $2.50. Doesn't matter what it is. You owe me 5 cents. I'm like, are you kidding me? All right, but always think that in mind, that when you loan money, loan it with the idea that I may not ever get it back. So begin to subtract that from your savings or wherever you've taken that money from. All right. So Marta's wants and needs. So I'd like you to, in your booklet, you'll see this handout. I want you to go through and I want you to put a W by wants and an N by needs. Put a W by wants. What things on that list do you think are wants, and what things on that list do you think are needs? What's a want and what's a need? Jesse, if you want to go ahead, pass them out to people. And pass them to people. Want and needs. All right. Okay, so Samaya, give me a, which one? Starting with coffee. Is that a W or an N? That's a want. Some people say, no, it's not. You don't see me without coffee. That is not a need. That is not a want. That is a need, because without coffee, oh. Groceries, want or need? Need. Give me your name again. Jasmine. Okay. Want or need. So that is a need. Next one, want or need? It's a need. Only if what? You have a car. Okay? So only if you have a car. And if you can't afford a car, then it's a want. Okay? All right, next one.
That's a want.
That is a want. Cell phone. Okay? It is debatable. It is.
To have it for your job to contact you, or if you have children, it is a need.
But we didn't used to have cell phones with children.
My thing, no, I'm talking about if you don't have a home phone.
Right. If you don't have a home phone, right.
So it's debatable.
Yes, that is debatable. But do I have to have iPhone 13? No. Okay. Okay. I'm just checking. I know some of our scholars might differ and say, if I don't have the latest and greatest, then I do need. Okay. Okay, Renee?
Don't need.
You don't need restaurants. Now, the restaurant owners might feel differently, because if you don't patronize, they don't stay in business, so they can't pay their own employees. Okay. Want or need? Yeah. That is a want. Okay. You can entertain yourself. Okay. You don't have to pay for entertainment. You can find ways to entertain yourself. Okay. Want or need? Okay. If we have a car, because we do have a car, unless we have bought a car and we paid it off and we paid it cash for it. Okay. Want or need? That is a want, but could be a need if you need clothes. You got to wear something. Okay. All right. Want or need?
I'd say it's a need. Depends on what your transportation services are. So like gas expenses would be good if you had a car, that would be a need. But public transportation would also be a need if you did a car.
If you needed a bus pass or whatever. Absolutely. Okay. Rent?
That's a need.
Unless I'm living what? Right. But she don't want you there after, it can't be 30 years old living in a basement. Okay. Health insurance, medical, want or need? Okay. All right. And then we got utilities, certainly is a need. And the salon, that's a need. Because otherwise that means I got to do my own hair and stuff. But absolutely. Okay. So I did the same thing on here. But clothing, internet. I think internet was on here, or was it? Maybe not. But cell phone and internet. Is internet a want or a need?
Right now. It depends on where you work, but sometimes you have to do stuff at home. You need the internet.
Okay, so it kind of depends on your situation. But do we need the highest level? Exactly. Okay. So there are a couple things that we can look at in terms of, are they a want, are they a need, and what we do with that. Okay? All right. So we're going to look at Marta. Marta earns $2,000 a month. Which of Marta's expenses can be reduced or cut? So these were some of the things that we said were what? Were wants. And then these were the things that we said were needs. Now, she makes $2,000 a month. And her needs are $1,485. And her wants are $330. So, you know, she looks like she's doing pretty good, right?
No.
We don't leave much margin.
You don't have everything included in what she needs to spend on.
Oh.
Credit card debt and all that.
Ah, very good. Are there some things missing? Yeah. And then she's living like real close to.
She's living paycheck to paycheck.
She's living paycheck to paycheck. What's not up here? What's not up here? So she doesn't have savings? What else is not up here? She doesn't have, I heard somebody say credit card. Okay, what else is not up here?
Any other debts you might have?
So is she living within her means? Or is she living outside of her means? Well, if you look at this, she's living what? She's living in her means because she makes what? $2,000 a month. But when you begin to look at other factors or components, she's not necessarily living within her means because she's cutting it real close. Real close. Okay? So what can we do? We want to look at what can we do to help Marta become better? Yes?
If coffee's really neat, you need that, we could just cut all of that out. Like, all of the wants, you just drop.
Just eliminate, okay?
And then you have,
So that may be something to look at. There's $330 that she has in here that are all wants.
But she has one.
I know that. So tell me a little bit about that.
I think quality, you also have to take into consideration like quality of life. So
Okay.
if she's only driving her car and living in her house and going to her job, what's her quality of life gonna be?
Ah, okay. So some of that is that we've got to take a look at possibly her mental state. Because if we eliminate everything that she wants, that could be what? Boring. That could impact a ton of things for her.
His therapy would be $330 a month.
Exactly. So some of her needs might change because we might have to add some more money in terms of the medical piece there, right? Okay.
And you can not just cut, but replace as well, right? So there's been seasons in life where meeting friends for coffee is definitely not an option. But adding some tea I really like to my grocery budget and having friends over for tea, that does work.
Okay.
That drops it from 40 to 10. You know, so there's, I think, cheaper replacements.
So there are some adjustments that potentially you want to take into consideration. So we're going to talk a little bit about the margins and so forth in terms of what should be spent on these various items. So first of all, how can we free up some funds? And some of you said we can cut some of the expenses. So we can begin to eliminate that. We can reduce some spending. So looking at, in some cases, maybe you spend $200 a month for groceries, but other months you might only spend $140 because maybe you purchased a ton of canned goods the last time, or you purchased paper goods and things of that nature, so you don't have to buy those the next month. You buy some things in bulk, so you have them for months and months and months. Price shop, coupon shopping, and so forth. Your ability to find deals. So when stores say you can buy this and get one for free, or you can buy this and get one 50% off. You also have to look at overall costs, because sometimes those deals are really not deals. They sound like deals, but they're really not deals when you begin to add up and say, well, this is really costing me as much because they've raised the price on it to give me something for free, or they've raised the price to give me something at 50% off. So you want to weigh that as well. Think about a new job. Right now she's working what? Two jobs. So could she potentially find another job that would pay her more or as much as the two jobs that she has now? What else could she do in terms of where it says consider freelance or gig work? What else could she do potentially?
Passive income.
Okay, all right.
Well, she can stop her once for a short time and save up for a car, pay cash, and she can, get rid of the car payment.
Okay, and that would be huge. So the ability to be able to eliminate a total payment, get rid of a car payment because you purchase a car with cash. Just make sure that the car is going to run. It's going to get you where you need to go. And then also making sure when you do that, checking with your insurance, because sometimes your insurance rates can go up based on the make and model of that vehicle. So you want to check into that before you purchase a vehicle. The other thing is that if she has some other skills, we always call this your side hustle. So if you got some other skills that you can do to bring in some additional money that won't require her to have to be at a job, but she might be able to do something at home. Online, especially now. Okay? So you want to look at, she's technically living within her means, but there are some places that she may be able to make some adjustments. All right, so let's look at some of her debts. So that wasn't on her list of expenses. So let's look at some of her debt. So she has credit card A, $400, but it's got a 23% interest rate. Credit card B, $300, 18%. And then student loans, $7,000, 12% interest rate. So she's got debt that she needs to pay down, pay off, and that wasn't on her initial list. So again, as we begin to talk about, is she living within her means? Technically, it looks like it, but now you've got these three factors to add to it. And what typically do we sometimes do when we get in debt? What do we sometimes do?
Panic.
Well, yeah, but that won't pay the debt. So, yeah, we try to do that too. We borrow or we add more debt. Because we figure, well, if I get another credit card, I can pay off this one.
If your credit's still good enough and you can get a 0 interest.
That's true. That's true. Get it for 12 months and then work to pay it off in 12 months, right? So that's what all of those things have to be taken into consideration as you think about how do I improve this going forward. Okay, so let's see what we can talk about in terms of the debt. So there's two thought processes. There's an avalanche method and a snowball method. So the avalanche says you list all your debts from highest to lowest interest rate, and then you look at the monthly minimum payments and you choose the highest interest rate loan to pay off first. Why do you want to do that?
That's gonna be the one that builds up the most. It's gonna end up,
So you're going to end up paying more and more and more and more. So the idea is that you want to look at which ones can I pay down. So you might say, well, but the snowball effect says that I'm going to list all my debt from smallest to largest. And sometimes we need that instant gratification. So it's like, oh, I only have to pay $50 on this one. And if I pay that off, wow, I feel much better compared to paying something that is a higher amount, because it never seems like it goes down. But it is going down because that higher interest rate, you're not going to be charged as much on a monthly basis. So you've got two formats that can be used in terms of paying down your debt. And you've got to determine which one is going to work for you. Both processes are good, but you've got to determine how much debt you have and what that interest rate is costing you. Most credit card bills, if you look at them, they will tell you that if you only pay the minimum, this is how long it's going to take you to pay off what that debt is right then and there. But that's only if you're not using it any longer. So it might be 2 to 3 years before you pay it off, and then it tells you how much you would have paid. And sometimes, whoa, you're saying, oh my goodness. The other piece is that if I'm listing all my debts from smallest to largest, then sometimes if I can eliminate a debt totally, then at least I'm not paying any more on that. But you also then have to decide, I'm not going to keep charging on it. So how do you do that? What do you do with those credit cards? You snip them. Now, I will tell you that if you're trying to build your credit, you don't want to close the account. You want to keep the account open. You just don't use it. Because by closing the account, that actually hurts your credit sometimes instead of helping your credit. So if you've paid it off, then just snip it and put it away, or don't snip it, but put it away and say, this is what we'll use for vacation, or this is what we'll use if we have a crisis. This is what we'll use if we have an emergency. So if you've got a credit card that's got $1,000, $5,000 or one, and you've paid it off, then put it away and you say, this is emergency money, or this is vacation money, or this is that rainy day type. Because it's always good to have a backup, your own backup. Those loan places that you go to, they love when we come in there. Why? Because they're going to make so much money on us in a short period of time. And if you've got you've already have a credit card that's been paid off, even if it has a high interest rate, but you've paid it off, then just keep it for an emergency situation if you should need it. Okay? So both of these, avalanche and the snowball method, are great methods. You just got to determine what's going to work best for your budget. So if you say, I have $200 every month to pay on credit cards, then look to see, I've got one that this is the balance, this is what's left. Pay it off, because if you do that, then that frees you up to pay more on another bill that you have. All right, any questions on that? All right, so for our scholars here, I want you to think about a short-term goal that you have, a medium-term goal that you have, and a long-term goal that you have. In terms of financial, what do you want to be able to do short term? What do you want to be able to do midterm? And what do you want to be able to do long term? So thinking about where you are now and where maybe you want to be in the next 5 years. Because many of you will be finishing college, if you're going to college, or military, or if you're going to trade school, or you're going to work, or whatever your situation. But where do you want to be 5 years? Right now, you're living at home. Do you want to be living at home 5 years from now? Do you want to be finishing college 5 years from now? Do you want to be in the military or in a trade school? Or do you want to have your own business 5 years from now? So take some time to think about that and write down short-term goal, middle-sized goal, and long-term. Where do you want to be? And think about it from the perspective that, my parents can't pay for me to go to college. There is water, guys, back there as well, so if you want some water. My parents can't pay for me to go to college, but I do want to go to college. So what are you going to do? So what's the goal you're going to set for yourself in order to be able to go to college? Oh, in the cooler.
Lemon water too, just if you use this spigot, just put a glove on for the spigot. This-
Cucumber water. Awesome. All right, I'm going to be asking you to share in a moment. So think about short term, medium size, or long term. Where do you want to be? Where's everybody? They just sent you, huh? Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. How many of you are 16? Okay. 17? Okay. 18? Any below 16? 15? Okay. All right. So if any of you are like me when you got to be 17, 18 years old, you let your parents know that you were grown. And I always tell my girls, you are grown when you are no longer living on me. That's when you're grown. When you're out of my house and you're paying your own bills, that's when you're grown. But as long as I'm paying anything for you at all, you are not grown. So my oldest lives in Westminster now. She's grown because she pay her own rent, car note, phone, and anything else. But the one who still lives at home, you ain't grown. Yep, you still eating my food. You still using my heat. Still using my water to wash your clothes. Okay? You got your car in my garage. All right, so how many of you, okay. So I won't tell you which one to do, but share with us one of your goals that you have either short, middle, or long term. So, Jasmine, what's one of your goals?
My long-term probably be finding a place to stay.
Okay, so finding a place to stay next 2 to 5 years. Okay, all righty. Which one?
For short term, I said a car that works.
A car that works. So which one is that? Short, medium, or long term?
Short term.
Short term. Okay, so in the next couple of months or 2 years, up to 2 years. Okay?
So I said a short-term goal I have right now is to start working again and to be enrolled in college.
Okay. All right. So do you need to pay for college yourself? Okay, so looking to do some grants and potentially loans, okay, but you know working is gonna help with that, all right? All right? Uriah?
My medium-term goal is to have less than 50% of college debt when I graduate. So,
2 to 5 years, so,
yeah. So but when I graduate, I'll have 50% less than what would normally have to be paid.
okay, all right, you're gonna be working. All right, what's your name, sweetie?
Grace.
Grace?
So I put for long term to save for a home, and then that way I could have a family and just
Okay, so we're talking more than 5 years. So how do you plan to do that?
get a good job, and then go to college if possible, and then just save as much as I can.
Okay, all right. So saving has to be king. Every dime you get, every nickel you get. When I go walking, I be looking on the ground to see who done dropped pennies and quarter. I find so much money when I'm walking, you know? And then what I say is, okay, so I found a dime, so that means I have to walk 10 more days. And then I find a quarter and I'm like, okay, that's 24. So that's my motivator to keep walking. But every time I find a penny, I'm like, that's one more day to add to it. But every time I'm always looking on the ground to see who done dropped their change. It becomes mine. Okay. What's your name, sweetie?
Autumn.
Autumn? Okay.
For my short-term goal, I've been saving money for a car because me and my parents have it set up where I save half and they bring in half so we can live together on it. So that's
So short term? Oh, so up to, okay, couple months, up to 2 years. Okay.
My medium-term goal is be financially stable.
And what does that mean?
No debt and money in the bank for whatever I need.
So you're saving now, you're working now. Okay. All right. Okay.
my short-term goal would be to be driving and have a part-time job
Okay. All right. So you can pay for the car?
so I can start paying for the car.
Okay.
And pay for gas because I don't have a car. I just would borrow.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Mom's listening. Pay for gas. All right.
For my medium-term goal, I'd want to be in college and paying my own debt off.
Okay. So 2 to 5 years. Okay. Very good. Alyssa?
Alright, I guess my medium-term goal would be to finish college and start my job.
Okay. All right. So 2 to 5 years. All right. Excellent.
My short-term goal is to be financially independent.
Okay. And what does that mean? And how are you going to do that?
Living out of the house and paying for my own stuff.
Okay. So do you have a job?
I do.
You do? Are you saving? Okay. All right. So a few months up to 2 years. Okay. Very good. Okay. None of this happens if you do nothing. It's just information, words on paper. It won't jump off and all of a sudden happen, or somebody's not going to come through and say, I heard you had a goal to be financially secure. Let me help you out. Nobody's going to do that. It's going to be totally up to you to make that happen. So you've got to set your own financial goals. You've got to look at putting your financial goals on paper and determine, what do I want to do? Short term, medium, and then long term. And then begin working it. Make sense of it. Put together a budget. If right now you don't have a budget, put together a budget. One of the things that they say in terms of budgeting, and this is some budgeting strategies, is the 50-30-20 rule. So what is that? So let's look at Marta's income. Whoops, gave you the answer already. No more than 50% of her income should be on her needs. So if she's making $2,000 a month, only $1,000 should be allocated to her needs. And she had $1,485. So that meant she's not living within her means. Okay? So $1,000. No more than 30% of income on wants. And how much was hers? Okay, so actually she's living within her wants based on, again, how much money she's making. And then at least 20% of your income should be in savings and or debt replacement or repayment. And so she should have had about $400 that's going towards that. So if you think about this 50, 30, 20 rule as you're looking at your budgets and so forth. But the other piece that we've got to take into consideration, if you look at Marta's expenses, first of all, you're not going to find any place that you paying $500 a month for rent. Okay? Exactly. I don't know where she lives, actually. She must be living in Alaska. Okay? But the idea here, if you look at this, is there has to be cuts all over the place in order for her to cut this down. And her wants are not over, but again, she's only making $2,000 a month. So you got to be realistic in terms of how much income you're actually bringing in. But if your needs are more than 50% and your wants are more than 30% and your savings is more than 20%, how do you begin to balance that out and change your structure? Okay? So this is the method also. So this one is where you're looking at kind of the categories, and here in terms of the percentages of what should be paid. No more than 30% of your budget should be on housing. So parents, if you look at your mortgage or your rent, are you paying more than 30% for that? And when you look at 30%, that would be purely the rent and the mortgage. That doesn't include your utilities and your maintenance or anything like that. So those are listed as well. So just think about these percentages and so forth as you're creating the budget. And some of these may change, some of these may fluctuate, but the idea is having some type of method to determine what your budget should look like. So you take what your net income, not your gross, your net income, and say, are we paying more than 30% for rent or mortgage? Are we paying more than 10% on utilities? Are we paying more than whatever? But this is all in your packet, so you can certainly go back and take a look at that. So Marta's monthly expenses by category. As you can see, 30% of her rent would only be $600. But again, I don't know where she's living, unless she's living with 4 other people, and potentially they're sharing. Because right now, here in Colorado, it's about, I think the average now is about $1,400 for a studio apartment. Studio, which means there's no rooms in there. It's all out in the open. Studio. So you're talking about having roommates or whatever in your space, because that's the only way that you can live. I'll stay at home in my parents' basement. Okay? But just think about some of the costs and so forth that are associated in terms of those monthly expenses. Okay. So some strategies for saving. 1, make a habit of saving. Doesn't matter the amount. So if you say for every paycheck I get, I'm going to put aside, $5. That's a start. Then I'm going to raise it to $10. And just remove it. If you have automatic payments to your accounts from your employer, just have money automatically taken out so you don't even see it. It's automatically gone, because that's how you save. You hide it from yourself. That's what I do. I have to do that. Because if I see it, it's like, well. But if I don't see it, it's already gone. Then it's like, well, you only had this much. So I just hide it from myself. Sometimes I hide money in my wallet. Sometimes I hide money in my car. I never forget. I know it's there. I know it's there. But I try to forget so that I don't spend it on other stuff. So automatic savings, limit your spending. You know, there are tons of things that we want. The question is, do I need it right now? And if I don't need it right now, can I then wait until I can actually pay for it? So a lot of times, if you can pay for things with cash, then you wait to get the cash to pay it. Then you don't have to worry about a credit card bill, and you have to worry about interest and all of that. So if I really want something, how much is that going to cost me? Oh, $30. Well, I'll wait till I can get $30, and then I buy it. Because then I'm done. I don't have any extra that's going to be charged for that. So remember, use your budgeting strategy. If you need help in terms of that, determining how to use avalanche or snowball method to figure out your spending, speak to someone. If you're not good with money, you know, one of the things my oldest would do is she would give me money to put away for her because she knew she wasn't good at not spending. So she would give me the money and then I would put it away. And then when she would ask for it, I'd tell her no. Because her purpose was to save. So I'm like, you told me to hold on to it, so that's what I'm going to do. And unless you're in a real pinch, then I'm not going to give it to you. Okay? Sometimes you get upset. Well, I'm like, well, don't ask me to hold it then. There's tons of free services online. Certainly, if you go to Edward Jones, you're going to pay to do that. But there are free services online to help you with budgeting and managing your money and so forth. Okay. Any questions? Any thoughts? Was this helpful?
Yeah.
So again, it only works if you use it. If you use it. For those of you who said you want to start saving, or you got to pay for a car, or you got to pay for college, or I want my own place, or whatever, again, that's not going to help. So earlier today we had a session here, and our facilitator was telling us that she had received $70,000, a windfall, what was it from? A settlement or something. You know what she spent it on? A Porsche. But this was the sad part about it. She bought this Porsche. No. She didn't realize that it cost $500 to get an oil change, $500 for tires. Insurance was, but she looked good in her car, but she couldn't drive it anywhere. She had no gas because she had to use premium gas. But that was her mentality, is that I got all this money and I can buy whatever I want to buy. Not taking into consideration, how am I going to take care of it? So some of you who work and get taxes and you get that tax money back, don't spend it all because you're like, woo, they sent me, $2,000. Woo, I'm rich. But you want to buy a car. You want to have your own place. You got to pay for gas. You got to buy clothes. So think about those things. Okay? All right. Let's take a 5-minute